Honestly, I don't know how I got here. Never in my whole life would I have thought that I would be where I am today, and not because I thought about it and I was like, no, I'll never be there, but just simply because I never thought about it. I grew up in this town that was super white. All we did were extremely white things like hiking, swimming in lakes, playing the oboe, or like obsessing over drama club. And then right after high school, I went to a theater conservatory on Madison and Fifth. The classes were very diverse, but the neighborhood was not. So I was immersed in this very white world for a very long time, and I mean, I was fine with it. I didn't know any better. It was just awesome. But I didn't feel like I had my own culture. You know, like, I'm Jewish and I love matzo ball soup, and I mean, curly hair is cool, but that's pretty much the extent of my connection to that. There really wasn't much culture in my life. And then one day, I met my boyfriend, Milton Jose. And everything changed. And now, I live in the Bronx with him. And it's so dope. I love it. Everything about it. The food, the music. I mean, not the music that my upstairs neighbors play, but I am officially in love. The thing is, finding my place in this new world is the only thing that I've struggled with. There will be occasions when we'll go to his family's house. And this actually happened where we went to his aunt's house, and, you know, a bunch of people from his family were there, including his mom, who, you know, just scares the shit out of me in general because she's like this Dominican mother who very deeply values her sons. And I'm like this little Jewish girl coming in like, hola, ¿cómo estás? And I'm just like, I mean, it's terrifying. I mean, like, it's quite terrifying, actually. So we went over to his aunt's house, and it was a big group of people. And I, you know, can hardly speak any Spanish. I mean, I'm trying. I really am, and I'm in Spanish too at school. But I mean, like, it's hard. And I mean, who really retains information from language classes at school? I mean, yo no puedo. And his aunt can only speak Spanish. So there's like this awkwardness from the family of like, well, are we gonna speak in Spanish or are we gonna speak in English? And I literally have to be like, no, like please speak Spanish. Like, don't change your native language just because I can't retain. But in reality, like, I really want to be able to speak Spanish fluently. Like, I really do. Like, if I go to the bodega and I speak my knowledge of Spanish, and I think I sound good because when I speak Spanish, I try to be confident, you know, like, hola. But then, like, people think that I actually speak Spanish, and then they go off on, like, this whole monologue, and I'm just like, sí, yo entiendo, sí, I understand. But, like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand at all, but, like, I want to so badly. So, like, I don't feel like I have a culture that I identify with, and I want to be able to, dance bachata or cook sancocho and not have somebody look at me strangely when I do. I want to be Dominican. Is there like a way I can make that happen? Like, can I convert? Or is there some sort of secret initiation? Maybe Milton and I can prick fingers, and then we can push our fingers together, and then his Dominican blood would be transferred into me, and then a part of him would be inside of me. Oh no. I could have his children. I could just pop out some babies right now, and our children would be both Jewish and Dominican, and I would be like this Dominican Jewish mother, and then people would look at me like I'm Dominican, and but I still wouldn't be Dominican. I don't know, I'll just go make some mango. And all of this is really coming from a deep adoration and profound respect that I have for the people that I know and the people that I've met. And mi amor, todos los días pienso en lo mucho que significas para mí y en cómo has expandido mi mente. Antes era pequeña y inconsciente. No sabía que había más en el mundo y un día todo cambió. Conocí a Milton y viajé a DR y siempre diré es el lugar más mágico en el que he estado. El amor sentí por parte de otras personas dominicanas siempre ha sido tan fuerte. Tengo tantas ganas de ser parte de eso, pero ahora creo que tal vez lo sea. Todos ustedes siempre me han aceptado y me han acogido con los brazos abiertos. Mis preocupaciones y inseguridades siempre estuvieron dentro de mí y nunca me las impusieron ustedes. Una vida sin ustedes sería medio vivida. Mi vaso siempre medio vacío. Una parte entera de mí faltaría. Tienen todo mi corazón y siempre les amaré.
Shame can be a really powerful force. Sometimes there are things you do out of shame. Sometimes there are things you don't do out of shame. Sometimes, in order to get anything done, you have to shovel emotional dirt over the shame. But the shame is still there, lurking, always there. I was always a terrible student. No, actually, what's worse is I was always an average student. I was just one of those smart kids that never quite clicked with the whole academia thing. At Bronx Science, I was average, an 80. The thing you have to understand about Bronx Science is that if you're in the 90s, you're doing it right. If you're under 70, you're a misunderstood genius like a Steve Jobs or an Albert Einstein. But if you're an 80, well, it's like my grandmother used to say. Eh. And then I went to Hunter, and I didn't really go to class much, and so my GPA was just awful. But by then I had figured it out. I was going to work in the arts. I was going to be a director or an actor or a singer, but certainly not in academia. No, not for me. Did I really think that, or was I just using arrogance and bravado to cover up the shame of being a disappointment as a student? I didn't know then, but I figured it out a few years later. So flash forward 20 years or so. I'm away directing an opera on a gig, and I'm having some very promising phone calls and emails with someone at Brooklyn College. They were looking for someone to direct their opera and teach their opera workshop class. And I figured I should probably tell this person that I didn't have a degree. So I told her. And click. And that was about the 6th time that happened to me. But for some reason, this time, it really pissed me off. So that anger and that frustration drove me, when I got back, 2 days later, to go into the registrar's office at Hunter. Well, maybe it was 2 years later, but yeah, it was 2 years. But eventually I did. I went into the registrar's office and I sat down with a counselor, and I saw her see on her screen my 1.94 GPA. And I had enough arrogance with me that day to say to her, no, you need to understand that 1.94, it doesn't represent me. It does not represent who I am. I'm different now. And she was so convinced by that little speech that they turned me down. Then I went in next year, and same speech, different counselor, same turn down. But by then I just thought, well, again, why does it matter to me so much? But something had kind of clicked in by then, which was that in your 30s, it's sort of cool and rebellious to be a well-read dropout. But in your 50s, it's just sad. And I had my other grandmother's voice in my ear telling me that Jews don't drop out. But again, where was I going to go? I wanted to finish what I had started, where I'd started it. But again, I wondered if that feeling was just another way to give myself an excuse not to go back. I just really didn't know what to do. So I don't know if y'all noticed this, but it seems like Lehman's had 4 presidents in the last month, but one of them changed my life. I was at a dinner where Bronx Opera was getting an award, and Lehman was too, and I happened to be sitting next to the president of that day, Jose Cruz, and I knew him a little bit, and I was just making chit-chat with him, and I asked him if Lehman happened to have a program for someone like me, who had fucked up school in 1991. And he looked at me and said, "Why, yes, we do." He probably didn't say, "Why, yes, we do," but he told me about the adult degree program. ADP, made for me, and not at $10,000 a credit either. It was incredibly exciting and also terrifying, because I had gotten so comfortable with the disappointment and the shame of being a terrible student when I was younger that I seriously, I almost didn't follow it up. But the shame of the thought of not following it up turned out to be stronger than the shame that I had felt for years and years and years. So in this particular case, one shame outweighed the other shame. You wouldn't think that an orientation session could take away the shame. I don't remember much about the orientation session for the adult degree program, but I remember one phrase: a fresh start. Adult degree program takes your credits from before, but not your GPA. So you graduate with a Lehman degree in whatever, but with your Lehman GPA. A fresh start. I was having a phone conversation last week with a family friend, Alice, who's known me since I was about 6 years old and is a psychologist by trade, so she asks a million questions. And she asked me why it was that I hadn't gone back to school since I was in my 20s. Now, I have always had a very well-rehearsed answer to this. I was too busy, I was working, blah, 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 whatever. But really, it's the shame. And I told her that. And she said, you have to let go of the shame. And then I told her about doing this Bronx Tales thing, and that this was helping me get rid of the shame. You wouldn't think that a school program, a bureaucratic program, could help just get rid of all your shame. And it hasn't. I still feel it. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel now. And when I look at all those kids in my classes, all the 20-year-olds, I think about the 20-year-old me, and I think about what I would tell that kid. And I think I would say, well, don't leave school. But moreover, I would say, don't give up. If you leave school, don't give up. You can go back. Don't let the shame that you feel at what you've done stop you from doing what you should do now. Shame is powerful, but it can't beat you unless you let it. And also, you're okay. You will be okay. You are okay.
COVID is real, y'all, okay? Real, all right? From the less fortunate to the most wealthy, it has hit many people in many different ways. My way of coping is to be around family as much as possible and to stay busy. Due to the pandemic, I had to move back to the East Coast after 3 years of living out west, pursuing my dreams and working hard to make it in show business. Who would have thought that COVID would bring me back to the Bronx at my mama's house after all this time? I know I didn't. But being here has reminded me of all of my childhood growing up in the 90s. And so I want to take you back real quick, okay? Picture it. 1996, I was 7 years old. And every Saturday, my mom would make me watch Hooked on Phonics tapes. Oof, okay? She was a teacher, and anything that had to benefit her children and was educational and accessible, she would do it. So every Saturday morning, after Saturday morning cartoons, though, because, you know, the 90s had the best Saturday morning cartoons. We had Recess, Animaniacs, Pepper Ann. Like, there's nothing like it to this day. But anyway, so I would have to watch these Hooked on Phonics tapes before I could even go outside, and my friends knew that I was not coming until I finished. And if they did come upstairs to come get me before I was done, my mom would let them know, if you walk through this door, you're gonna sit your ass down and do some work. She didn't play that. But as I sat and reminisced on the good years, I realized that a lot of the words that I learned in Hooked on Phonics relate to women now. And a lot of the words end with the suffix shun, like menstruation, which literally says it all with the first 3 letters. Men drive us nuts, and so do period cramps. I mean, first is the infatuation with a guy who you think you love. He probably will break your heart a few times and then some. You think about him. He reminds you of your favorite R&B artist or rapper from back in the day or currently. You listen to certain music just so you could think of him, and turns out that all of that adoration and admiration was for nothing. As women, we have so much to deal with when it comes to men. If you were single before the pandemic, then you're extremely single now. Not only were you cautious about meeting the one pre-pandemic and making sure he was the man of your dreams, now the only man you can find is in your dreams. As women, we have been placed on pause while every clock around us continues to tick. Our career clock, our marriage clock, and not to mention our biological clock. With all these trials and tribulations we go through, and the relationships and the new situationships, it's mind-boggling. But I digress. Going through this isolation during quarantine has put a lot into perspective for me. It has shown me that no matter when you had your graduation into adulthood, that this pandemic caused a shift that would affect every woman and man's journey. I'm at the age where I thought I would have had it all figured out by now. I thought I would have had the job that I've been longing for, the relationship that turned into matrimony, the ability to bring life into this world and have someone depend on me. But in reality, I can't seem to find a clear direction. Life is unpredictable. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that feels this way, or I'm the only one who could be going through this type of journey. But I know I'm not. I also know that depression isn't selective, and it affects many people who we think have it all together. These past few months, I have been dealing with depression. This pandemic has led me to seek professional help. And with that, I realized that I was only asking these questions because they were valid questions. And I valued my life. I valued my journey. It has shown me that I should continue to chase after the answers to my questions and continue to chase after my dreams and my goals. I should continue to chase after the life that I want rather than chase time on a clock. I should just let time catch up to me. To be honest, I'm gonna let a man catch up to me too, because I don't have time to chase that clock either.
Bronx cab drivers are something else. They always want to be all up in your business. You know, like, you live here or is this your job? Oh, so what's your husband think about that? But the one I get the most often is, Mommy, is you Dominican? And don't get me wrong, some of my best friends are beautiful Dominican women. But I know where this line of questioning is going to lead. This isn't going to be one of those dope exchanges of knowledge and words and experiences that's going to make it worth the time we're going to spend to have it. No. 9 out of 10 times, this conversation is going to lead to either myself or the driver or both leaving with less than 5 stars. Mommy, is you Dominican? No. No? Wow. You're so beautiful. I thought you was Dominican. Thank you. No. And then that's it. Not even a follow-up like, oh, but are you mixed? Or you have a very exotic look? Like, what are you? Nothing. Just radio silence. So let me get this straight. Because you thought I looked beautiful, thank you. And because I'm obviously a beautiful golden brown, I must have been Dominican. There was no alternative? No. Wow. I even had one guy ask me, are you sure? Do you know who your father is? Like, I resent the implication that I can't just be a beautiful black woman. And furthermore, it really pisses me off that no, I am not Dominican. But yes, I am mixed, but now I don't even want to admit it. Because I don't want to give him the benefit, the satisfaction of being both offensive and also correct. So I got to be a liar in my own cab? 2 stars. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I hate talking to cabbies. I love speaking to cab drivers. Those are my peoples. I love hearing stories about how they're hustling and, they're sending money back home, or they're getting their masters. They just started a business. This is their side gig. Stories are what connect us. But, if this guy, he could have got 5 stars if he'd have just shut the fuck up. I saw a skit on YouTube for a hair salon called Shut the Fuck Up, in which the stylist, the client, the receptionist, they all agreed to just shut up. And I thought, wow, imagine just skipping all the small talk, a car service that could do that for me. It just wouldn't even have to be a chance to inadvertently offend someone. In my wildest fantasies, it'd be shut the hell up. The car service for the days you just can't. And it'd pull up, and the driver would come, even the car would come down the block, the engine would hum low. The door would come open, and he would just, and I would do the same. We wouldn't, no words, just. Then I'd get in, and he'd pull off, and I'd swipe freely on my phone. I'd giggle, I'd laugh to myself. He wouldn't ask any questions because he's minding his business. I'd play with the windows. I wouldn't have to ask his permission to do so. I'd feel the breeze on my face, take a nap. I wake up, I'd be there and get out. And even then, just nothing. And we give each other passive-aggressive 5-star ratings. It'd be great. It'd be perfect if it let me choose the music before I get in. That's another thing. Don't even let me get me started on Bronx drivers and the radio, right? You're always at the mercy. It's either obnoxiously loud or it's like that ridiculous low hum. Like, who's listening to that? And you don't know me, so why I gotta be blasting La Mega? Or French news, or any news, or even the one that pisses me off the most, right? I get in and it's a song I actually like. And then they change it to Hot 97 or 105.1 or whatever is the raunchiest, nastiest, trappist beat. Like, excuse me, sir, you don't know me. How fucking dare you? I like Adele and Linkin Park too, but I guess in the end, it didn't even matter. In all fairness, I will say 1 out of those 6 times, the ratchet song is really my joint. So err on the side of silence, and the 5 stars is almost guaranteed. It's, you know what it is too? Generally, I am moving about on the train and the bus. I'm going from work to school to rehearsal to other rehearsal to family, finally home to my boyfriend. So if I have the coin to splurge for a cab and I have a 20-minute pocket to talk to somebody or take a nap, right. And, it's like that little bit of nap just gives me that little bit of push so I can get home and finally not fall asleep while I'm watching anime or eating dinner with my boyfriend. And oh, how the times have changed. I never thought I would miss those cab ride conversations. I have time now. Me and my boyfriend have caught up on movies and tried new recipes for dinner and leveled up in Call of Duty. Because I don't have to go to work or other rehearsal or school. In fact, I'm only, I am going to work, but that's it. Just work. I see the same 3 people on a regular basis. The only variable is my cab driver. I'm dying for a little conversation. I went from being this social butterfly to a whole hermit. I don't speak to anyone. I would love to talk to my friends regularly, and as much as I love my family and friends, yes, I'm a really good person who also ain't shit, a little bit. And the conversations are dope, but they're also they bum me out. And it always starts so good, right? It's like, hey, oh my God, I freaking miss you. Oh my God, I miss you, OD. How you been? Good, all things considered. How you been? Good, all things considered. And that's the nice way. How you been, by the way, is a loaded fucking question right now because, obviously. But let's just say it goes good, right? It's so what you been up to? Nothing. What you been up to? Oh, Shit, getting fat. Oh, girl. Me too, getting fat. Word. Anything new with you? Nope. So at this point, the conversation can only go 3 places. We're either going to stroll down memory lane and talk about all the things that we used to do and how we miss doing them, and for me, it's a bummer. Or we're gonna talk about politics and COVID, bummer. Or we're gonna talk about plans we're gonna make when all of this shit is over at a TBD because we don't know when we're gonna be good to get together and go out again, bummer. And that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario, that's not the worst case scenario, is that they tell me they're doing great and they're living their life. And then I'm secretly resenting them for doing so and also not being safe because I know they're around other people who ain't been safe because I've been watching them on social media low-key. So then I have to, put a don't ask, don't tell policy because then you don't have to tell me and I don't have to feel away and ask you what the hell were you thinking? Because God forbid something happened to you. What am I going to do? I couldn't even go to, so I just don't. So now more than ever, I'm looking for these cab driver conversations. Like, talk to me. You're the only one living a different life than me. And it's silence. Not even the radio, because the radio is triggering and talking about all the stuff that we don't want to talk about. Just nothing. Not only am I not hearing Mommy is you Dominican, I'm not hearing anything. It's like the Bronx just wasn't the Bronx anymore. I'm going down the streets, riding on my way to work, I see 4 people. It's quiet, it's weird. My loud, rambunctious Bronx is like living in an echo of its own ghost. It's strange. A plastic bag blows down the block like a tumbleweed. I don't know what's going on. And then it got crazier. Shit popped off, riots and fireworks and fires and all kind of madness. And it's just, the year couldn't get any stranger for me, so I thought, and then it kept doing it. And then as if it needed a cherry on top, I woke up one day and had this wild, disgusting rash on my body, just everywhere. Pityriasis rosea, so they say. I ran to urgent care. In this silent cab ride, I just kind of want to tell anybody. I just want to talk about anything. I need something to subside my nerves. It doesn't work. I get there, and even the doctor only has this much to say to me, and it's so weird to have a conversation with somebody from 6 feet away from you when you're desperately trying to get some information, and you think that maybe they're standing away from you for a different reason. But no. They're like, hey, so you have this thing called pityriasis rosea. And I'm like, oh my God, what is it? And they're like, it's like a skin thing. It usually kind of only affects the torso. It's usually not itchy. I'm like, it's really itchy for me. They're like, oh. It usually doesn't spread. I'm like, it's on my face now. I look freaking hideous. Oh. I said, when it usually doesn't do things, do you mean it does things weirdly for Black people? Yes. Oh. So she gives me a prescription and sends me on my way and tells me there's not much I can do but write it out. And I'm in this cab ride now back home, just stewing, again, in silence. This is nothing like the shut the fuck up skit at all. It's horrid. And I'm reading the prescription and it literally says some anti-itch ointment and sunlight. Sunlight. Could you be serious? Where am I going? Where am I getting sun? I can't be anywhere. I can't walk anywhere without this damn mask. I am sitting in this cab ride that's all of 7 minutes losing my shit. I wish I would have been able to have a conversation. I get in the house and my boyfriend's playing the game in the living room. He's like, hey babe, how'd it go? I'm ripping off all my layers of all my COVID outside clothes to get into my inside clothes, and I'm in the bathroom looking myself in the face and looking at all the breakouts and how my hair doesn't look how it wants and how my clothes aren't what I usually want to wear because who's seeing me anyway? And he's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'm not contagious or anything. I'm just going to be hideous for 3 weeks to 5 months. I'm going to be a fucking gremlin. And he's fine, he's playing the game, he's paying me no mind. And while I am being a little emotional, I really am tight. I was working so hard on myself for the last couple of weeks, the last few months, the last few years. I was really getting to be a person that I really liked. I made my vision board and this year said, fuck all your visions. And just at this moment, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I don't recognize who I see. And I'm just feeling the weight of everything that I thought I was gonna do. And as I am literally on the verge, the precipice of a full ugly cry freaking breakdown, I hear from the other room, Peach, as his F9 is shooting and he's throwing grenades, he's like, I love you very much and you're very dramatic and I let you do your thing. I don't like his tone at all. And he comes over to the bathroom and he gives me a kiss on my nose and he's like, you don't actually think you're hideous, right? You're plenty beautiful inside and out. And this is just a rough patch. You're gonna do what you gotta do and you're gonna be fine. And he leaves, dashes off into the living room. And it was so little. It was something so small, but it really shifted my perspective. It's not that I forgot everything else that I was super grateful for, it was just harder to see because I could only see everything that was missing. But you know, if I put on a little weight, that means I was healthy, that I'm happy. I might only see 3 people, but I'm grateful to have a job still, to have a closed circuit. I mean, even if it might be a little bit judgy, I'm happy to still have my friends and the ones who will check in on me. And like, plus, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. And it's the best time to be ugly, really, because nobody can see me. But it's easy to get trapped in those moments. And I'm glad I had somebody to help me check myself before I wreck myself, right? So now I'm out in the world with this attitude, this positivity, and I'm like, okay, political climate is changing. The Bronx is getting loud again a little bit. Cab drivers still aren't talking to me. But I got hope. I am optimistic yet skeptic. So I had a cab recently pull up, and I hear music for the first time in forever. Like, the music's so loud, I can see the window vibrate before he comes, right? I'm like, oh shit, Tyson's about to set it off in this cab. And then he lowers the volume. But then his suicide doors go up, and I'm like, oh, did I get an Uber XL? This is exciting. And I get in, and he says nothing. And I say nothing. The doors close, but he turns the radio back up. And it's horrible, but I am just happy to have anything that's gonna break the silence right now. But then he changes the station, and it's a song I freaking know, finally. I don't even care if it's a song I like. It's just a song I know the words to. So I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm having my moment. I realize I don't even listen to music like that anymore. So many things have changed. And as I'm looking around, I notice that his mask is vibrating, and I'm like, ah, we're not talking, but are we having a moment? Are we singing together? But then he realized that I'm singing, I realized that he's singing, and we kind of a little bit had a moment at a red light. But then he lowers the volume a little bit, and his mask vibrates, and I'm like, is he trying to say something to me? And I'm like, shit, this is it. Like, this was it, and I missed it because I couldn't hear him. I'm like, sorry, I couldn't hear you, you know, through the mask, and what'd you say? And he lowers the volume all the way down, and, Mommy, is you Dominican? And you know, it's nice to have a bit of normalcy.